I still remember the night everything inside me changed. Before that night, my world was simple, predictable, and painfully innocent. I trusted too easily, believed too quickly, and held people far closer than they ever deserved. I lived in a small house filled with quiet routines, soft conversations, and the kind of peace that makes you believe nothing bad could ever happen. But life has a strange way of tearing open the places you feel safest. My sister was the heart of our home. Loud where I was quiet, fearless where I hesitated, bright where I faded into the background. She wasn't perfect, but she was ours, and I never imagined anyone could break her the way they eventually did. Before the story begins, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more powerful stories like this. The boy she trusted, the one who smiled so gently and spoke with fake softness, was the reason everything fell apart. He came into her life like a warm breeze, making promises he never intended to keep. I watched her fall for him slowly at first, then completely. She believed every lie he told, every sweet word he whispered late at night when he thought no one was listening. But I heard things. I saw things. And I felt things I couldn't explain. Something in him didn't feel right. Something in his eyes flickered too sharply. But whenever I tried to talk to her, she brushed it off with the kind of hope only love can create. I didn't know that the night she left home to meet him secretly would be the last night she came back the same. She walked in hours later, her face pale, her hands shaking, her eyes refusing to meet mine. She didn't speak to me, didn't sit beside me, didn't even breathe properly. She hid in the darkness of her room, and something inside me began to twist and tighten. I knocked. She didn't answer. I stood outside her door for so long that the hallway felt like a different world. I had no proof of what happened. I only had instinct. And instinct can be louder than truth. Over the next few days, she stopped being herself. She avoided everyone, cried silently at night, stared at nothing for minutes at a time, and flinched at the sound of his name. Something terrible had happened between them. Something he wanted to keep hidden, and something she was terrified to speak about. That was the moment I realized the world isn't ruined by storms. It's ruined by the people who smile while causing them. I knew I had to find out what he did. I knew I had to understand the truth. But what I didn't know was that uncovering the truth would destroy the last pieces of who I used to be. Because when you hear the kind of pain someone caused to the person you love most, something dark inside you wakes up. Something sharp. Something cold. Something you didn't know you were capable of feeling. On the fourth night, she finally broke. Tears soaked her pillow as she whispered bits of the story, each sentence shaking, each word pulling me deeper into a darkness I didn't know existed. He had manipulated her, trapped her in moments she didn't want, used her weakness as his entertainment. He played with her emotions, her trust, her innocence, and left her with nothing except guilt she didn't deserve. And when she begged him to stop whatever he was doing, he laughed. That was enough. I didn't need to hear more. Something inside me snapped, not loudly, not violently, but in a quiet, frightening way, like silk tearing in the dark. I made a promise to myself that night. I wouldn't let him walk away. I wouldn't let him hurt her again. And I wouldn't let him believe he could break people and remain untouched. Revenge didn't feel like a choice. It felt like a duty, a responsibility, a calling whispered through the cracks of my shattered home. So I started watching him. Quietly, patiently, carefully. People forget how invisible a silent girl can be. I walked through hallways unnoticed, slipped past crowds invisible, listened to conversations as if I wasn't even there. I learned his habits, his lies, his secrets. I learned who he pretended to be and who he really was. The deeper I dug, the darker it became. And all that darkness did was feed me. He had no idea that his life was slowly falling into the palms of my hands. And I had no intention of ever letting it go. The days that followed felt unreal, like I was living someone else's life behind someone else's eyes. I moved through school halls with a calmness that fooled everyone. Even he didn't notice the change in me. He still walked with that fake confidence, laughing loudly, pretending he was the center of the world. But I saw something different when I looked at him now. I saw cracks, fragile places, weak points, and every one of them became a path toward answers. He liked attention, and he liked being admired even more. So, I gave him exactly what he wanted, the illusion of being important. I didn't talk to him directly, not yet. I simply made sure he noticed me noticing him. A glance here, a short smile there, small things that made him believe I was just another admirer falling into his web. He had no idea I was studying him the way a hunter studies a threat. I began collecting pieces of him, his habits, his lies, the things he tried to hide from everyone. I learned who he texted late at night, who he insulted behind their backs, and who he used for fun. I watched him break small hearts for entertainment, the same way he had broken my sister in ways she didn't deserve. Each new discovery sharpened the quiet fire inside me. Meanwhile, at home, my sister barely left her room. I tried to be close to her, but she always looked at me with eyes full of guilt she shouldn't have carried. She didn't know what I was planning, and I didn't tell her. She didn't need more fear in her life. She needed peace. She needed healing. And I was going to give her that, even if it meant I had to walk through the darkest parts of myself to get it. One day, I followed him after school. He walked alone toward the old sports building, a place students rarely visited anymore. He was meeting someone he trusted. I hid behind the wall and listened. That's when I heard it, the truth he had been hiding. He bragged about hurting girls, laughing like their pain was entertainment. Even worse, he talked about my sister as if she were just one more story to impress his friends. I didn't step out. Not yet. But I felt something cold spread through my chest. Not fear. Not anger. Something deeper. Something that felt like it had been waiting inside me all along. He thought no one knew who he really was. He thought he was invincible. He had no idea how wrong he was. Once I understood the truth, the full truth, I began laying out a plan. Not a chaotic, emotional reaction, but something steady, controlled, quietly powerful. Revenge wasn't about loud chaos. It was about precision. I wanted him to feel the same helplessness he had forced onto others. I wanted him to realize that the world he built on lies could collapse just as easily as he destroyed lives. I didn't rush. I observed. Every day, I discovered something new. His pride was his weakness. He needed people to admire him. Without admiration, he became insecure. I tested this theory with small moves. I let rumors drift through crowded hallways. Not lies, but pieces of truth disguised as secrets. People began questioning him, doubting him, whispering when he passed by. He noticed. His smile became tighter, his shoulders more tense. He walked faster, spoke louder, tried harder to show superiority. He didn't know where the doubts came from, and that confusion began to eat at him. But it wasn't enough. Not yet. I needed something bigger, something that would take away the power he used to hurt others. I made a plan to expose him, but exposure alone wasn't the goal. The real goal was to break the illusion he built around himself. His charm, his confidence, his lies. I gathered messages, recordings of conversations he didn't realize people overheard, screenshots of the girls he manipulated. Every piece connected. Every piece told a story he desperately tried to hide. The more evidence I collected, the stronger I felt. Revenge didn't consume me the way people say. It didn't destroy my humanity. Instead, it gave shape to the courage I never knew I had. I wasn't doing this for anger. I was doing it for justice, for my sister, and for every girl who had been hurt by someone who thought their feelings were disposable. I knew I couldn't do this alone, though. So, I found the girls he had hurt before. I didn't tell them everything, just enough for them to trust me. Slowly, they began to speak. Quiet voices, trembling voices, voices that had been silenced for too long. Together, they formed something stronger than fear. He had built his reputation on lies. I was going to end it with truth. The day of confrontation arrived quietly, almost peacefully, like the calm before rain. I didn't choose a dramatic setting. I didn't need one. I chose a place where truth couldn't hide. The school courtyard, packed with students during lunch break. He liked crowds. He liked attention. So I gave him an audience, just not the kind he expected. He stood with his friends, laughing like always, pretending he carried the world in his hands. But when I approached, the laughter softened. Students watched us, curious, sensing something unusual. I didn't speak loudly. I didn't shout. I simply asked him a question he never expected anyone to ask in public. "Do you remember what you did to my sister?" Silence spread through the courtyard like a slow wave. He froze. His eyes widened, not with guilt but with fear. Real fear. The kind that appears when a carefully built world begins to tilt. He tried to deny everything, but before he could speak, the girls he had hurt stepped forward. One by one. Quiet but brave. Each one a mirror of the truth he had buried. I handed the evidence to the school administrators who had arrived after seeing the commotion. Messages, voice notes, screenshots, all real, all undeniable. His lies unraveled in seconds. The crowd wasn't on his side anymore. His friends stepped away. His confidence shattered. He looked smaller than I had ever seen him. He kept trying to defend himself, but every word he said dug him deeper. The truth was out, and there was no space left for his games. He wasn't a charming boy anymore. He was exposed, revealed, stripped of the mask he had worn for so long. As he stood there trembling, I felt something surprising. Not victory, not pride. Relief. A calm relief that settled deep inside me. I didn't want to hurt him physically. I didn't want anything dramatic or violent. I just wanted the truth to stand taller than his lies. And it did. For the first time, he felt the weight of what he had done. After everything happened, people started talking. Not about me, but about the courage it took to reveal the truth. My sister heard what had happened from whispers traveling through the school. When I came home, she looked at me with eyes softening for the first time in weeks. She didn't ask how I did it. She didn't ask why. She just hugged me. Quietly, tightly, like she was holding on to the one piece of safety she had left. Healing didn't happen instantly. It wasn't a miracle moment where everything became perfect again. But there was peace now, a slow kind of peace that grows between broken pieces learning to fit again. She wasn't hiding in her room anymore. She wasn't crying herself to sleep. She was slowly coming back to herself, and that meant more to me than anything else. As for him, his reputation collapsed. Teachers took action. His parents were called. Students distanced themselves. He had to face consequences he had avoided for far too long. And for once, he wasn't the powerful one. He was simply human, flawed, exposed, and forced to confront the pain he caused. People later asked me why I never shared my name during all of it, why I stayed silent about myself. The answer was simple. The story wasn't about me. It was about the truth. It was about my sister. It was about the voices that had been ignored for too long. I didn't need recognition. I didn't need praise. I needed justice. And justice didn't require a name. Life slowly returned to its rhythm. But I wasn't the same person anymore. I had learned how dark people could be, but also how powerful quiet courage can become. I had walked through shadows, but I hadn't gotten lost in them. I found strength in silence, clarity in truth, and peace in protecting the people I loved. And sometimes late at night, when the world grows quiet, I think about everything that happened. Not with regret, not with fear, but with a calm understanding. Some storms don't destroy you. Some storms shape you. And this storm made me stronger than I ever thought I could be.